off camera a little bit, I'm going to be eating.
Oh,
So
okay.
I won't subject any of you to that.
Okay.
Hey, I know we're live, but I'm going to disconnect and come back. Something's
Okay.
really weird with my connection.
Sure thing. Yeah, I tell you, it's funny because I don't even consider myself a cable subscriber, right? You said just a moment ago you're a cable customer. I just don't even think about it anymore. It's just internet.
Yeah.
I'm just like I don't, I mean, if I didn't know how to check to the company, I would. It just is.
Yeah. It's funny though, because you talk about that how you get and I'm going to say I'm a cord cutter, I guess is the term that was getting tossed around a little while ago, and so historically we have two televisions in the apartment, and one had a Roku attached to it, and the other one I actually had a Mac Mini running on it, and that's like the home server. It's where I do my Time Machine backups and all that, and it's how I would do internet video is through that. But it was a mouse and keyboard. It's not the most intuitive thing for a living room situation. So my wife was like, finally, the kids are getting older. They're watching a little more TV. So she's like, let's get a Roku. And at first I said, well, I think I'll get an Apple TV because I want to be able to develop for it. It's an excuse to get a new gadget. And I bought another Roku. I sat and thought about it, and it was, it was cheaper. And it has Amazon, and I'm an Amazon Prime member, and that has a lot of kids programming, so it's good for the kids, and that's something that is missing from Apple TV, or so I was led to believe. And I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure this is a perfect excuse to get a new gadget that I can develop on, and I went for the Roku.
Yeah, we have one of those as well. We have an Android, I can't remember what they call it, an Amazon Fire TV stick or whatever, and then we have the Roku, and then we have Apple TVs, which is nuts because we only use one device at a time. But my wife has a food channel that is actually maintained by somebody else on Roku, and she has people watch her all the time through that channel. Mm-hmm. So I bought one so that we could at least see what it was like and see what the experience was like and kind of the interface and stuff. And I just say it's I don't know, it's not as elegant as I would want, but it's certainly functional. It's certainly,
and it's fast. I like the searching, and I have to say I think the hardware is the same on the Roku I bought maybe a year ago and the Roku I bought just a couple weeks ago. But the remote is new, and so it has a microphone, so it does voice search, which works pretty well, as far as I can tell.
Steven, I knew I was leaving somebody off the list. Thanks for joining us, man. When I go through and I do the email, I'm like, okay, there's Barry, and there's Jason, and I go through all these names, and then invariably I leave somebody off.
I can usually find it, but I didn't see it yesterday.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for ferreting
I
it
prefer
out.
this backdrop, man. We need to get you to do your Monday show back there.
Well, this is in my parents' basement in Minnesota.
Oh, still home for the holidays?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Probably not for too long, but.
Well, that's not some special effect with the to infinity and beyond behind you.
No, and there's all sorts of grandkid stuff around here.
You don't need to connect everything else. It's like the trees.
Nice. All right. Well, first of all, I think we should recognize we got Chris Byerly on with us. And Chris, I just want to say congratulations on becoming a Corona Labs staff member, man. He looks like he's frozen. Sweet.
He's here.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Chris says.
Props to the thumbnail. No, I don't know. maybe it is just a thumbnail. He's just not there. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, I'll just continue with that chain of thought. We've got, for those who don't know, anybody who's watching this later, we've got Chris Byerly, who is the creator of Coronium. He's going to be doing cloud development at Corona Labs. Also, Sergey Lerg, who is a regular on Corona Geek. He's going to be doing plugins and sample apps and stuff. Then there's a gentleman called by the name of Keegan Blumenthal. He's in the perk office here in Austin, and he's doing business development. And then we've got our very own Danny Glover, who used to be a core engineer, and he's back. He's going to be doing plugin development. And then, of course, Brent Sorrentino, who has been in the forums and does the documentation and everything else. He's a developer evangelist now. And then Rob is still around. He's doing Rob has a full-time job, which totally amazes me, right? He has a full-time gig, and he does the forums, and he does tutorials, and he does all kind of stuff. So just amazing. So he's still around doing part-time stuff, and then of course myself. So it's great. We've got additional resources, new people working on making Corona stronger. So I'm really excited about it. It's really cool. And then I was told today that we're actually still hiring. That we need core engineers and we need QA technical people and all that kind of stuff. So I think the careers page hasn't been updated yet, but look for that soon because it's coming. And then we lost Chris. So
we got to see his headphones for like 2 seconds there, and then he dropped.
Yeah, he's sporting the knit cap.
People who drink wine, because I'm good for that.
Yeah. He's sporting the knit cap there in Oklahoma. Must be cold in Oklahoma. See if I can add him back in here. Here we go. And then we got Mike. We got Mike joining us today.
I'm not new.
No, not you. Not Michael. Not that one.
Not you, Mr. Famous Mike. The other Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm famous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for joining us, man.
No problem.
Is your camera not working, Mike? I know we talked about this before, but
It's showing me that it's working, so.
Oh, it might just be Google throttling or something.
Yeah.
We got nothing over here.
Yeah.
This is Mike and I meet. We talk every once in a while. I can get my act together, and we always have this problem. Mike, I can't see you. What's going on?
That's it. Yeah, that's one of the oddities of Google Hangouts is you really don't know what's going on. You never really can tell what's happening.
What's weird to me is that I can't, I see a video of myself, so I don't even know that you guys can't see my video. That's what's
right. Yeah. It should be fairly consistent across the board. It should, not show you to yourself.
Right.
At least give you a warning,
Yeah, because when you introduced me, I waved like everybody could see me because I assumed everybody could see me, so I'm over here, which is hilarious.
Right. Yeah, now knowing that you were just waving to yourself.
Yeah,
now you think we're ignoring you. It's not. We're not ignoring you. We just can't see you. But at least you can stay on. Chris can't seem to stay connected.
No.
Well, we'll see. Maybe it won't last that long. Who knows?
Maybe it's that snowstorm that they're having there in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But every time he drops off, there goes another phone cable. Got to reroute.
We'll see if Chris both have a bad, crappy connection to the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
Hey, before I forget, I just want. It's probably too late, but Daniel over at That's So Panda is running a Kickstarter, and today is the last day. I wrote him and I said, if there's any way you can extend it, you should extend it. But he has had a Kickstarter going, and today's the last day, and so I'll just post a link here. But if folks feel like contributing, it's not quite too late, so maybe we could save this thing.
How far is he on his pledges? I hadn't.
He's not very far.
Not very far.
Yeah, I think it just wasn't. I feel like it wasn't a good time to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody was busy doing something else.
I think there's a certain amount of learning curve that needs to go into that kind of stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into a successful Kickstarter campaign.
I lost you. Something Kickstarter campaign.
Something Kickstarter campaign. There's a lot of stuff that goes into a Kickstarter campaign.
Let's try that one more time.
I've watched some videos on that, and people say that it's like a full-time job once you start one of those up for several months.
Yeah, right. Well, you almost need a certain amount of ramp up, and then it's a whole campaign. Just doing the campaign, and then you have the fulfillment. So it's a big deal. I mean, I don't think I hats off to the people who, who at least embark on the experience I think just to at least figure out how it works. Hey, look, we got the Laura Talarde with us.
Yeah, she was all willing to talk about me when I was gone. I think I didn't see that comment. I don't know, Laura, if you probably don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. The comments from like a show 4 or 5 times ago came through. So I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be out being a roadie, but that's not true. That was a comment from months ago that somehow got tacked onto the show.
Yeah, I saw because yesterday, at the end of the hangout, you said, "All right, see you tomorrow night," and I was like, "Okay." And then, you said that the comment said that it was you were being a roadie. And I was like, "Okay, guess so."
He lied to me, that liar. And he's already used up one of his curse words on the show. I forgot about that.
So, what are we going to talk about tonight? What do you guys want to put on the table? I got a whole bunch of stuff that we can talk about that's Corona Labs related. But does anybody have anything
for your
on
list.
the panel?
I saw that list.
You saw that list?
Yeah, that list you sent out. I'm all ready to listen to all about that. Maybe say something intelligent every once in a while.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say some things, and then you guys say some things. How about that? So, we went through the new hire list. That's a good thing. Plugins. There's a bunch of plugins being created, which is amazing. Danny was going to try to join us, but unfortunately, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning for him. And there's Rob. Let me add Rob to the mix here. But there's a bunch of plugins being created. I'm looking at a list of them here. It's pretty substantial. Chart Boost is in the mix. Because I know we had that plugin, and then now we don't. Facebook Audience Network, or so Facebook ads, if you want to put Facebook ads in your, which I didn't even really realize that Facebook was doing ads. Does anybody realize this besides me? Or not realize this besides me?
I didn't realize it.
I didn't either. That's interesting.
Serving up ads like they're an ad platform?
Yeah. We've got a sample app that's being polished, and it's the ads look really nice. Am I still there?
You're still there.
Okay.
I'm experimenting by clicking on other people's cameras and just having some issues.
Yeah, I'm getting nothing but grief on the stream.
Yeah, I hear a little bit of chatter on you're in there, Chris.
Chris is doing the Roboto voice right now.
So
as far as the plugins go,
do we have an ETA on when we'll be able to have paid plugins and assets?
We don't have a timeline on it. It is definitely on the radar, though. It's something that we want to have, and we want to. So everything's kind of starting out with plugins, but just as you said a moment ago, assets is part of it as well. So we want to have what we're going to call the marketplace, and the marketplace will have plugins. It will have images and audio and all those types of things. So phase one was to get the plugins in place because those are things that we have that made sense, and then we have the commerce piece that's being worked on, and then we'll roll out paid plugins and things like that. So just hang in there. It's definitely being worked on, and
I just wanna,
I'm really hoping that Perk can accelerate that whole process, having a bigger team, and maybe they have a little bit more experience in e-commerce sites and so forth. So
yeah. Before it was it's something that we really wanted to do, but now it's something we want to do and is a priority, and we actually have the resources for. So it's great. It's definitely on the horizon.
Right. Yeah. So I'm looking at the list here, and there's Game Center and the Zip plugin, Address Book plugin, and these are, of course, these are all kind of plugins that are already part of it.
Yeah.
Michael, throw in if you have any comments there.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I'm just gonna be quiet. The Facebook Audience Network is one that's big that we're gonna release very, very, very soon. There's some commercial stuff, some more monetization options. There's a new web view, I think, coming out. And I don't know what else I should say, so I'm just going to leave it there.
Right. So, no, so that's good. And then there's Hockey, which I don't know if you guys have used Hockey for testing.
Hockey app, Microsoft's thing?
Yeah. So I haven't used it personally, but it's in the list. So the idea being to provide the plugin so that developers can test their applications without having to use something that's cross-platform, right? That's kind of what we do. Which is weird, right? Because it's coming from Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean you can use it now if you just bundle your app up as an IPA.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to have some of the, they have their own SDK, sort of like TestFlight used to have. So being able to access some of that stuff would be really cool.
So Laura, what are you asking there? Are the Facebook ads like in-app purchase ads, or what is that? In-app advertising or ads on Facebook for apps? So you want to know if they're like just regular ads or are they like apps that are being promoted on Facebook?
Yeah, because I know you can advertise your app on Facebook, and then they do all the installs and everything, but I didn't know if it was for actual ads in the app. And Michael just answered me down here and said that they're actually for ads in the app being served by Facebook's ad SDK.
Yeah, which if they do everything like Facebook does, their targeting should be exceptional, right? Because they have all the demographic information on people, and I don't know how that all translates as far as ads are concerned, but it seems like they do a fairly good job on site. In an app, it seems like they could do a pretty good job as well. And then Rob went ahead and linked up the some documentation there in the chat, so you guys check that out. All right, so let's see what we got here. I got so that's kind of the plugins. Plugins are, I mean, there's a whole list here, and we won't go through all of them, but a lot of them are monetization plugins. A lot of them are, there's some like for Google Analytics and things like that.
As far as the plugins, what is there? Is there an official list that goes with what works with Apple TV yet? Because I'm not really sure what works and what doesn't.
There, I would assume that no plugins work with Apple TV unless we've said so specifically, like iCloud plugin.
Yeah. Which the iCloud plugin. Thanks for your help in that, Rob. That I actually just got confirmation today that my app is now live in the store. So, and I used the iCloud plugin to keep track of the user's high score, which worked great and was very easy to implement. So kudos to the plugin people.
Awesome.
My app got rejected because of a metadata error, even though Apple just wanted to know if it worked with game controllers or not. There's nothing in the interface to check whether it works with game controllers. So I don't know how it could have possibly been a metadata error, so now I'm back in the submission queue again, waiting for a review.
They didn't
inject into the P list that you support game controllers. We might have to handle that better.
Well, what's interesting is I didn't add anything specifically about what I just do both controllers, but I don't think I had that in the P list because I thought that was automatically added.
It is. Yeah. I'd like to talk about your app more, Rob, offline. But back on plugins, I think it'd be really great to have more user voice requests and more form activity on what sort of plugins you guys want to see. It's sort of feedback that we're definitely going to look at. So if someone wants to start a discussion on the forums about, what are your wish list plugins, I think that'd be great for both third-party developers and for us.
Well, even if we do start such a forum thread, isn't it appropriate for people to post those on the feature request list, or do you just want them to do it in forums?
Either or.
Either or. Okay. I don't want to change my tune. I'm practically yelling at people sometimes, going, "Put that in the request thing. Stop putting it over here in the forum."
Yeah, it probably
tell me
should
they
go
put it
in
in
the
the forum.
feedback. I mean, it should go in the feedback site.
Okay. Forum post helps spread visibility on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I get
But
that.
yeah, by all means, link it back to the forum post so people know it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we need to get to Game Center and in-app purchases. Should probably be the next two things that we tackle. Even though I think on iOS in-app purchases, that's not a plugin, is it? It's a plugin on Android, but I don't think it's a plugin on iOS.
I don't think so.
But I think those are the two big pieces plug-in wise that we need next. But then after that, it's a matter of what do you guys want us to do out there, and how important is the Bitwise plugin to be done versus zip plugin, those sorts of things. So having your feedback will be uber helpful.
And going back to Mike's comment earlier, having the commerce piece in there and being able for developers to be able to sell their plugins and stuff, I am really personally looking forward to that, because I likes to make money, and anytime I can create something and put it someplace and make a few bones off of it, I think that's it's very encouraging. So I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So I'm excited to see that part in place, because then I'm thinking that people will come out of the woodworks and want to start making plugins. I mean, there's already a bunch of plugins that people have just sort of voluntarily created and put in the and put into the store, but I think that it's gonna there'll be a lot more once we have the paid portion in place.
And I think the asset part is going to be important for users who don't have a lot of experience and can't or don't know how to create their own artwork, and they don't feel comfortable going out to a third-party site to pick up a plug or assets or a plugin or whatever. So I think that's important for kind of the mid to low tier beginner.
I agree. It's also sort of a parity with Unity thing, which whether fair or not is a comparison that gets made. So it's just another item off the checklist.
Right. Yeah, and it makes sense. I think it does make a lot of sense to have. I mean, it's an obvious question that people have, right? I mean, Ed has said multiple times that he always uses programmer art. So my question here is, Laura, would you create asset packs? Would you create images for other people to use in their games?
Gosh, probably. I want to say just first off the bat, I would have to find out more about just the usage and compensation. Just because I kind of come from illustration, so they're always telling us to make sure that we get a fair deal and whatnot. So I would. Just my own personal preference, I would probably let a few people go first and kind of see how it plays out before I would consider something like that.
Yeah. Have you considered it on any of the other platforms? I mean, any other venues, I guess you should say?
No. I prefer to just create custom things just as they go along, and then also I have my own brand of apps, and my art is obviously exclusive to those, so I wouldn't want to kind of dilute my own brand.
Oh, nice. That's good. That's good thinking. Well, the other thing that's going on right now is a revamp of the website. So the homepage is being worked on. There's going to be a site-wide revamp. We're going to reorganize some things. So we're going to try to bring information closer to the top. There have been some complaints in the past about some certain items are hard to find in the site. Which is always kind of the curse of information, right? You can only put so many menu items. You can only, there's a reason there's marketing in the world, right? You have to advertising in the world. You have to let people know about things. But we're going to try to make it to where the obvious things are kind of up top. And so we're looking at the site from a perspective of kind of almost three audiences to kind of simplify it. One would be sort of the decision making or evaluation phase of discovery phase of engagement. So you might come to the Corona site and say, okay, what is this thing? What does it do? What are its features? And you're just trying to determine if Corona is right for you. And then once you've kind of picked it, and you say like, hey, yeah, this looks like a great thing, and now I need to get up to speed and learn it. Which is kind of what we've always been about on Corona Geek. Is kind of like, let's talk to each other, let's share ideas, let's figure out how this thing works. And so we want to bring some of those things onto the site, and so people can go use some step-by-step materials to create apps and learn how to use the tool. And then we also want to do enhance the developer side of things. So today we've got the forums, we've got documentations, we've got guides, we've got what have you, and we want to make that to where that part is robust, so that when you go and look for the information, you can find it. So you've evaluated the tool, you've learned how to get up to speed on it, and then in the day-to-day usage, you can find the information that you need, whether that's a forum post or a tutorial or a guide or whatever. So if you guys have suggestions on that, or you have any kind of feedback, things that you can or cannot find on a regular basis, let us know.
I think for me, I'd really just like to see the site a lot sexier and more interesting, more feel like it's made in 2015 or 16 versus 2009. Right now, it feels kind of.
I've used that word. That's my word on the show here.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
I got a patent on that word for the show.
Well, we're definitely
calling applications and stuff sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sexy is definitely coming. There's a lot more visual interest.
Yeah, I really think that's needed.
The site for the longest time was not even mobile responsive, right? It was like every other site on the internet. It just, the device sort of scaled it, right? It was one big web page in a little bitty box, and then we retooled it and made it mobile responsive so that it would fit on a phone, which is a fairly decent thing to do as a mobile software company, right? Mobile software SDK company. But you're right. It's kind of dated. It's a little bit columns and rows. It also is very text heavy. We do a little bit on the marketing side to say here's an icon, here's an image, here's something that conveys something pictorially, in a few seconds. But when you go and look at maybe, you go and look at other things on the site, it's a lot of text. And so we want to try to not get away from the text, but supplement it with other things that are visually interesting.
Yeah, I think once you hit secondary and tertiary pages, I think that's fine. People have decided to dig down and start getting information, but from a design and communication standpoint, I think the site has very little grab appeal, and that's kind of where my background is, and so when I see it, it looks like uninteresting to me. When I look at some of the competitor sites, I think they're doing a much better job of making it seem more interesting right off the bat, and promoting popular games that have been created with that, platform.
Okay, you can say sexy if you want to.
I agree. I'm visually driven as well. So when I come across a site where it's not as exciting, or the design elements aren't there that make me feel like it's polished, then I don't know. I wouldn't say that. Well, I do. I don't stick around on that site as long, right? I'm like, okay. I think Corona does pretty well compared to some of the other tools that I've seen out there. there's some sites that I've seen, you know, especially like in the open source community, there's some tools that are, you know, it's great that the tool is open source, but it's kind of a volunteer project, and you look at the site and you're like, meh, it doesn't give you an air of confidence. So yeah, I think that having it polished and as you say, exciting would definitely help. Get somebody interested. You know, that's one of the things. I don't know if you guys have ever read anything. This is a sidebar. Advertising Secrets of the Written Word. I'm looking at that book right now. It's almost like a textbook. It's a hardback book, and in the book he says everything on a page in an advertisement is designed to get you to read the first sentence of that advertisement. So whether it's the image or the headline, it's all designed to just entice you to read the first sentence, and the first sentence is supposed to get you to read the second sentence and the third sentence and the first paragraph, and then pretty soon you're halfway through the article and you're invested in it. And I think that's the same thing with the website. It's got to entice you to become involved in it. All right.
Sorry, guys.
Awkward silence.
Good job. I'm listening, but I'm typing an email to Raj right now. We were supposed to meet, and we didn't get to meet, and so I'm like trying to juggle something here.
Yeah.
Am I still a robot, or can anybody hear me?
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you are too. That must be my connection.
No.
All right. Well, I had some things to talk about, but if it's too choppy, then it'll be a waste of time.
Yeah, it's not going to be a pleasant experience.
I say go for it.
That's all right. Just put it in the chat, and we'll just.
Well, my question, I think, was generally, you know, I've been thinking a lot about. Obviously, we're Lua based, and you know, people kind of get thrown into the framework, which is obviously simple, but there may be quite a lot of people who could use a little bit of a primer on the Lua language itself. So I don't know how or if that's been considered, but I have come across and seen myself in the forums of just a lot of people who are kind of missing kind of the basics because they're jumping right into, like, you know, a display object or XYZ. And I'm talking about, obviously, you know, newer people to programming, but I'm wondering if that's something that, you know, we are more interested in as far as, like, trying to push the learning of that language, being the fact that Lua is not, you know, is kind of low on the totem pole for people. And if we could show how simple it is to learn it as a full language and then integrate it with Corona, it may empower more people. I'm just wondering how many people come on, play with the tools, and then as they start to expand on it and realize that there's actually a language that also wraps around it in a bigger form, you know, are those people bailing out because they don't understand some of the more esoteric concepts of Lua?
Well, let me take a stab at that. One of the things, and that I really like that Perk is doing, is they're focused on having us try to make it easier for people to get in and do things. In fact, the term that we're throwing around a lot is zero friction. We want to try to remove any barriers to entry that we can that's reasonable. And one of those things is we are looking at trying to take a project and go from zero to complete app in a step-by-step type learning environment, almost like you'd pick up a book and go to chapter 1. And this is what you do to get started. Then chapter 2, we start adding pieces in and explain those bits as we move along. We're not there yet, but that is definitely a goal that we're working towards. And I think in part of that, you know, there'll probably be an opportunity to discuss the Lua side of things and explain what the Lua code is as we go along. Maybe we need to have even more remedial tools to go along with that. You know, I think it's a great idea. You know, if we really want to try to reach zero resistance, then we have to be, better at teaching Lua. And, a lot of times people just point people to Lua.org. And if I had to learn a language from Lua.org, I don't think I would have ever learned it. It's not an easy site to try to digest what's going on. So
no, that's true.
Yeah, that's
so I think we've got
that's
opportunities.
definitely what I was referring to, for sure. And we have limited books and things like that too. Burton's doing a great job, but I don't know. I know it's not our job specifically to have to promote the Lua language, but I think that there may be some benefits in that, obviously, in that we are very dependent upon the Lua language. So that's cool. Thanks for the update on that.
Yeah. Your audio is definitely coming through clear now. Yeah, I agree. And Dr. Burton added a whole, when he did his first iteration of his book, it was just really on Corona SDK, and then in the second iteration of his book, there was a lot of questions around, can you provide us more material for non-programmers, right? Give us the basics, give us what variables are and what functions are and all that kind of stuff. And so he wrote that into his second book, which then became a textbook that colleges and universities and high schools use to learn programming. So I think it's not beyond reason that we should at least try to either add some information into that, or link to Dr. Burton's book, or even send them to the Lua. Even the Lua.org site isn't all that great. It's not that's not that great, but it's a lot of information to digest. We could still send them there, maybe to the reference manual, and say, hey, here are some of the core concepts. So
even just maybe a beginner's glossary, to Lua with a Corona mindset in mind. So explaining what a table is, not just in a vacuum, but explain it. And I think it's an opportunity too to sort of pitch, Lua as a smart choice for a language, particularly for a framework that's the goal is to be frictionless, right? So, just explaining to somebody that Lua means you don't need to declare a variable type every time you're declaring a variable. You don't need to throw a million semicolons into your code, or else it'll break.
Yeah, but in some cases though, you have to back up, right? There's a certain level of assumed information there, right? Somebody's like, wait, what do you mean by variable type?
Yeah.
What's a variable?
Yeah,
So,
and that's obviously there's different tiers, of course, of people who come and approach this, and so I'm definitely speaking from more of the starter programmer tier. Someone who's just getting into the idea of building apps. So yeah, definitely, I think that could be extremely advantageous.
Hey, I just wanted to note here, Scott Harrison has asked a question. I turned the QA thing on here, and he says if we can hear him. Scott, we cannot hear you, but if you want to ask your questions, we can see them and we can answer them. So I don't usually turn that QA thing on, but he sent an email saying, hey, how do I ask questions? So if you're watching live, then you should be able to ask questions. Well, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to make a note of that. I think while we're doing the step-by-step or the chapter-based examples of things, it would make sense to have a chapter on the basics. Why not? It doesn't hurt, and as you pointed out, somebody's going to need to know the basics. And then just as Jason was saying just a moment ago, if you come to Lua from a different language, JavaScript or PHP or whatever, then or Objective-C or whatever, right? You're going to have questions about syntax, so we could definitely supply some information on that as well.
Yeah, and and the other thing is too, it's the Lua org site, God, I'm drawing a total blank right now. Like Rob mentioned, is very difficult to get through, and additionally, you know, Lua has been around for quite a while. There is so much information out there when you start digging into those, you know, news groups and forums and stuff that you don't know what's current and what's not in a lot of cases. So, you know, it behooves us to kind of fine tune that for people, I think.
All right. Yeah, and it, you know, at the end of the day, there's like you said, there's a lot of information, and you don't need all of it in the beginning, right? You don't need everything. You just need
exactly.
You just need, here are these main points. As you read through the documentation, as you read through these guides, you are going to run into these things, and naturally you're going to be like, well, what is that, right? So we could at least provide some kind of,
you know, and Lua being kind of as open as it is, you know, there's all these multiple ways of approaching things, multiple ways of using the table. You know, these kind of things are not completely obvious right off the bat. So, you know.
Apparently, Laura and I both have this on hand. This is the third edition of Programming in Lua.
It's sitting next to my bed.
Okay. It's a very good book.
It's very good.
It's written by the author. Someone could probably write a running commentary on that.
Yeah, that is one of the best books on Lua that I've read for sure.
And is this a reference book?
Except when I got to the C part, then I was all over.
It's a reference book.
It's a reference book.
It's a reference, but it's not a. It's a nice reading reference.
It's not like
it's written by the creator or one of the main creators.
The C side of that's great for plugin development.
And the first edition is online, as Jason is saying on the side.
For those of us who are cheapskates, the free version's online.
I think that the second version is online now too. I'm not positive. I thought I looked at it.
You know, these days it's not so much, I don't feel like, being cheap. It's just that materials become so outdated, right? Which is one of the reasons why I like what Dr. Burton does with his books, that he continually keeps them updated. But I could see how having a book like that would be a great reference.
Yeah, it's very good because he talks about a lot of the kind of, you know, I wouldn't call it code-heavy book. He kind of talks more about the theory and different ways of kind of approaching different techniques with Lua. So it's really cool.
That's cool.
It's been fairly stable since version 5, so things aren't getting updated.
5.2 for Corona?
5.2. Oh, 5.1.
Oh, 5.1. Well, then Rev 2 of the pill should cover 5.1.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, modules came in 5.1, so, or the nicer syntax they have now.
The better, the not really global modules.
Yeah.
The module all.
I just did a quick search on lynda.com. I'm a fan of lynda.com. I have a subscription, and there's no, strictly speaking, Lua tutorials or Corona SDK ones. I think that could be an opportunity for Perk to maybe throw some resources that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with them. I built that video library.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was the original creator of that. All the original code. They actually kept the original code for quite a while. I still have my working password and login.
Until they hear this, and
we all perk up. We're like, yeah, can you share that with me?
No, I worked and taught with them, and then I built that framework for them, and as well as their DROM framework. So,
Chris, do you have any videos up that you are the host of?
Yeah, there's an ActionScript DVD on there. But
all right, Rod, you heard it here. Throw some bucks Chris's way so he can make some Lua videos, some Corona videos, and get them up there.
Yeah, you know, I have talked with one of the project managers over there about a year ago, kind of about that. Didn't get a ton of response, but you know, it's just a matter of kind of pushing them a little bit. But yeah, I think there is a good opportunity there for them to do some Lua stuff.
You know, there are quite a few courses on Udemy. Not to throw out a competitor or anything, but
no, Lynda's the subscription that my last job bought for me. So maybe when that subscription runs out, I can consider Udemy.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of lynda.com. I've used them on a number of occasions and taken a lot of Objective-C courses and Photoshop courses and all kind of stuff from them. But
Yeah, they're great.
great people. I think Ed, you were mentioning earlier that's so Panda, Daniel. He has a course up there on Corona SDK, and I know that Jay has one. Oh no, on Udemy.
Oh. No.
What?
I'm doing the what thing. The what?
What? The what? On Udemy, Daniel.
Udemy. My brain said Unity. I'm getting so confused over here. Stop drinking wine, Ed.
Yeah. But no, Daniel has a Pirates versus Ninjas course, which takes you through a whole app that has in-game currency, and he takes you through if you want to put ads in it and publish it and all that kind of stuff. It's a good course.
How is that again? In-game currency?
Currency, yeah, that's how we say it over here.
Is that how they say it in Texas?
That's right.
Currency.
Didn't you see our former...
Okay, that'll be the only time I give you a bad time about being in Texas.
Didn't you see George W. for 8 years?
Please don't say that.
Okay, so our other thing that we're working on are sample projects. I think maybe Rob talked about this a moment ago. If not, they're we've had was it Ghosts versus Monsters? We've had there's been a bunch of like Fruit Ninja. There's been a bunch of sample projects that have been created over the years, and what we want to do is streamline those, simplify them, and make them projects where people can kind of look at, this is how a platformer is made. This is how, this is how in-app purchase works. This is how, whatever, right? We want them to be able to see those sample projects as something that they can take as almost like a template and be able to, extend. So that's in the works. Sergey's actually working on a revamp of Ghosts versus Monsters. And I think we're going to call it like Corona Canon or something like that.
Yeah. And I really like that idea because that's kind of how, that's how I personally learn, is from other people's examples. I love to basically or reverse engineer what's been done, and that helps me understand how I need to do things and how things are set up. And I know when I started, there wasn't that much out there, and it was very difficult to understand the structure of how you're supposed to set up a game. There was lots of, information on specific, API calls and stuff, but other than that, it was difficult to understand the flow of how you're supposed to put something together.
Well, and, the one thing that it kind of struck me early on was that when you look at a lot of the tutorials, a lot of the information that's out there, there's a lot of things on game development, and I was really looking at Corona for more general purpose apps or more business apps, and I'm not a game developer, so when it got down to it, when we started, I started learning more and more about physics engines and all these other stuff, I realized that, you know what? I don't know how a platformer works. I don't know how these different concepts. And that was one of the great things that Ed brought to the table when he started joining the Hangouts. It was like, he already understood a lot of the concepts behind creating a game and making things work. So I think that a lot of people might be in that same boat. And they need examples. And I know Rob created a business app example, and that needs to be out there. It needs to be available. It already is, but one of the things that we want to do as well is bring all these samples together under one general place where they can all be found. Because before, I think some of them were over here and some of them were over there, and you had to find them. And we just want to bring all that information together and make it more accessible.
Well, and excuse me. To add to that, we're storing it on GitHub, which is a great place. But once you get multiple things in there, and if you're updating them, they bury really fast. And you can do sub repos, but you can't just download a zip file from a sub repo. So we're looking at trying to come up with some different organizational opportunities there to get sample apps definitely more visibility. And find some of these older ones like Ghosts versus Monsters and update them to graphics 2.0 and all those necessary things. And of course, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and that's a good point there. Is that some of the samples were out of date too. So we wanted to pull things that were not in date. We wanted to pull those down, rework them, evaluate their usefulness, and then either republish them or just pull them down altogether. Because the worst thing that can happen is somebody can come along and pull an example of something and then it just doesn't work, right? It's pre-graphics 2.0 or it's storyboard and the current version of Corona doesn't support storyboard anymore, and it just leaves a bad taste in somebody's mouth. So the sample projects are being updated. They'll be made available as sort of this template sort of resource. One of the other things that we want to do is we're going to start showcasing apps. We want to do a couple of things. One is we want to give developers an opportunity to be seen amongst their peers, and we also want people to be able to look at the sheer volume of apps that are created with Corona, because that's as you can see on the wall behind me, there are a lot of them, and that's just a small fraction, and some of those, that's just a graphic, right? Some of those repeat, but there are a lot of apps created with Corona, and we want people to be able to see that so that they know, they have confidence that there's a lot of people doing it, there's a lot of variation, there's a lot of possibilities. And then the other thing that we want to do on top of that is if someone is doing something in particular with Corona, we want to do case studies. We just published a case study today on Abilene Christian University, they're using Corona in their programming courses. So we want to highlight those things as they come along. And we had that before. We did that a long time ago, but it's fallen off, and it's time to get back to it.
So you just read the comment about Ina.
What's that? Where?
Oh, I thought maybe you'd look down into the thing there, and Jason says, "Let's go back to the good old days." And Laura says, "I lament Ina's leaving all the time." Anyway, so on.
Yeah. No. That's what comes to mind though, because when Ina was here, she did a great job. She reached out to media sources, and got us published. She did case studies. She did the showcase stuff, showcased apps, app of the week, whatever we were calling it at the time.
And she was really available to the developer community as well. She was great.
Yeah.
Well, she did and then also the app of the month, which personally was cool for me because one of my apps won them, and then I was able to write that all over it and say, "Oh, it's an award-winning app. It's so exciting." And since then, there's still other review sites, but the app of the week was always a fun kind of goal to try and get your app in there to get it exposed, which is something like anyway.
Cry like that would be it.
But yeah, that's exactly it, though. I agree that there's a certain amount of recognition that you want amongst your peers as well. So, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I wasn't being serious there, but in truth, it was very nice to have the weeklies and then have the articles about people's apps and games and such. And so I definitely look forward to seeing that kind of thing again.
And it was cool because you could see what other people were doing too. Because I feel like it's easy to get trapped in a little small developer group, and then only concentrate on one kind of app. And then all of a sudden you see people making these business apps and all these other kinds of apps, and it's exciting to see what you can do with the software.
It was good for the community too. It made it feel more, you could, like you said, you could see what other people are doing, so you feel like stuff's really going on. There's a lot of activity, and you're like, hey, that guy did something pretty cool. I could do that too. Better.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a rallying point for me. I know early in my dev experience, I sort of got an app of the week nod, and then I ended up being able to write a blog post, and it's it's something that I think it encourages people to deepen their commitment to the community. You know, that's only going to be a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think it. Again, like you just said, I think it sparks relationships, right? It gives people a common thread, and that brings them together. So, for sure. Well, one of the other things. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Hang on. I know we've been bantering back and forth. Excuse me. Excuse me. Not so much about reestablishing App of the Month or App of the Week, but just at least, you know, when new apps come out and we find something that's interesting, at least highlighting it for the community. Right now, we're not planning on doing anything on a periodic schedule, but when we have opportunities, we can try to definitely start getting some type of hey, look at this app, it's kind of cool type blog post back out there.
I tell you what I want to do, Laura, and this is inspired by you and Eric, and also by Glitch Games, is I'd like to do monthly mini hackathons. And basically, I've got it on the list. It's on my task list to work out. But I'd like to get sponsors on board, and we do one every month. So we would start it on go from the 1st to the 30th, and then have a judging period, and then that next by the 15th of the next month, the winner would be announced. Right, so then we would kind of have overlapping competitions. So we'd have the 1st to the 30th. We'd start a brand new one on the 1st to the 30th, but on the 15th of the following month, the month prior that competition, the winner would be announced, and then so on and so forth. And it would just keep going. And then out of that, we would we'll do something like kind of a winner circle or a winner showcase, and then that way we can have. Almost similar to App of the Month, but something that would be more driven by people competing or collaborating or whatever you want to participating in a hackathon.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's funny. The comments were all going monthly. Okay, whoa, I don't know if I can keep up with that, but but no, I think that's great, and I think too, it's an opportunity in seeing as it's specific to a platform. Instead of maybe coalescing around a theme, it's going to include a princess, include a plumber, whatever. Maybe it can be built around a new feature, a new plugin, a new API. Maybe not every time that'll be able, but as new features become available, I think that'll be an opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
They kind of did that when they did Graphics 2.0. They kind of gave it out, and people came up with a lot of interesting kind of apps with it. I thought it was cool. The effects, the one they came out with the.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of people who came up with stuff. Yeah.
And Jason, I think that is a good idea. That it gives a way to kind of like feature, new features, and to show the different ideas and ways that they can be used. I think a hackathon monthly obviously is semi crazy, but at the same time, I think that it also proves the point that you can create something so quickly with Corona. So it'd be interesting to see how that could play out.
You both did it. You both said this negative thing. Jason said, I don't know if I can keep up with that, and then you said this is crazy, and then Mike said something too, but I wasn't going to point that out. I typed it. But I think that we could. We people here on the panel have the capability to do. Wouldn't have to be the winner every time, but we could definitely pop something out.
I've got the internet in my pocket.
Yeah,
I can crank out a little project in a month.
Well, and it could be, mini hacks, right? It doesn't have to be like, when we're talking about shipping the app, at the end. It's just, it could just be
more demo kind of style.
Yeah,
one of my favorite. Oh, sorry.
Like you said before, when the Graphics 2.0 came out, there was just specific features that were demoed.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite little experiments in this is a couple of years ago. Do you guys remember Corona Paper, the sort of short-lived magazine? and they had an awesome, write an app, and it's got to be under a K. You got 1,024 bytes, and I thought that was great. I came really close to squeezing in a little what is it, 15 puzzle, slider puzzle. Now I didn't quite get under the 1K limit, but
I entered 2 entries in that, neither of which won.
But that was an awesome challenge, and that's the type of thing that's just perfect for this type of fast iteration thing. And that's I was saying in the Slack channel the other day that I've been working on client projects and all that, and it's like I miss sitting down at the computer and saying, like, I've got 3 hours in front of my computer, this is exciting, this is going to be fun. And those types of little challenges can really energize that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at the wrong. I look like I'm looking over here. You guys are like, we're not over here. We're over here. Okay, so there you're back in front of me. I think it would be cool because I just want to say that we on the panel wouldn't necessarily need to put in like a lot of work, but do something. And for me, that kind of thing is exactly what Jason said, sort of an invigorating wake-up challenge. That's what I like about answering forums questions. And Rob's like, yes, I do this, and it's a lot of work. But I do it in the morning, it kind of gets my brain working. So this is the kind of monthly get your brain working exercise. Sounds good.
Who would? I mean, I haven't. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Which one of us is talking?
Laura, you can go ahead.
Sorry. my only thought with the monthly thing would be when I was doing the ship jam with Eric, it was difficult to get kind of everything together. It was easy to plan it out, but it was difficult to get everyone's entries together and then to get them over to the judges, and then for all of the judges to judge all of the entries and then get back to me. That just all seemed to, it was all a lot of time and definitely a lot of energy. So I would just be wondering who would do that and how long could they last doing that every month?
No, that's a good question, and we're gonna have to live that and work that out. The submission process is going to have to be streamlined. No, these are logistics issues, right? And it's going to have to. Let's just say for a moment, we're all thinking about ourselves, right? So there's 10 or so of us on the panel here, so we're all kind of like, oh, would I do that every month? But let's just say that, let's say 300,000 people in the community and 10% of them submit apps or samples. It's a whole, that would be a lot of people. That'd be a lot of stuff to judge, right? So it's going to be able to scale. So we'll have to see.
Well, what about people's choice? I mean, what about creating a framework where we monthly or and even if there is a tiny backlog, we may get the entries at the end of the month, but it doesn't mean we have to post them that day, and figure out a framework for people's choice, and that could draw in more people and teach them more about Corona, show them the different developers that are doing cool stuff, and maybe inspire them. I mean, and that could definitely alleviate a lot of the kind of management that comes with that when you have like a judging panel per se.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna have to be scalable, and it has to be something where it's kind of almost community driven. So
I wonder even if you could harness the power of YouTube, do like a channel around it. Especially if it's not going to be based on that we have to release a game, that it's more of just highlight something and you're just kind of showing it, so you may end up with just a lot of videos that people are submitting to show what they've done, what their example is. If they're not willing to give away that code, then you may end up needing to have something like a YouTube channel where people can go and post it, or you send it to somebody else and they post it, and then people can vote on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, they could always post it on their individual channels and send us a video, right? Just send us a link to a video. Yeah, we'll have to experiment with it. I don't know that there's going to be a clear, because at some point we will have to do one of two things. We'll have to either say, like, these are the rules, and if you want to participate, then like you'll have to figure out how to make a YouTube video, you'll have to figure out how to use GitHub, you'll have to do whatever, or we'll have to make decide to make certain allowances, and we'll have to figure out how to make that possible. So Ed's asking, how does Ludum Dare, how do they do it? Has anybody participated in that?
I thought they had like a community voting mechanism.
They do, yeah.
So yeah, so I think that leveraging resources there like GitHub and YouTube would be a great way to be able to say, okay, submit with this information, and then somehow we would have to enlist the community to do the judging. And that would actually work. That would actually be great, because then you wouldn't have to worry about, like if it was just sort of everybody voting, then you wouldn't have to worry about overwhelming judges or biases or anything like that.
Kind of an interesting way to distribute a bunch of different source code too. I mean, I would assume that people would distribute these things as source, but
or we could just bring in as Laura says.
You sound like a robot again, Chris.
Yeah, well, actually, you guys all do too, so I don't think you're getting off the hook.
Nice. Right back at you, he says.
Well, I think AT&T is trying to take over our neighborhood and scrambling our internet.
That's it. The government is listening. Yeah. Hey, okay, so basically there's that. We're also going to go to events. So we're going to go to GDC. We're going to go to Apps World. Perk already goes to a bunch of events every year. So they go to like the was it Mobile World Congress in Barcelona? So Corona is going to be going to some of those events as Corona, and then some of those events it'll go as a tag along with the Perk team. So the Perk team's already paid for the space, and we're just going to add the Corona piece onto the booth. So that's going to be great exposure for us as well to kind of get the word out. And then the other thing that we're working on, we're going to work with Dr. Burton. He's going to help us get into educational institutions, so colleges, universities, high schools, that sort of thing. We're going to be ramping up a program and extending our reach there. And the other thing that I'm really excited about is CoronaCon. So this was one of the very first thing that was out of Raj's mouth was CoronaCon. He's like, we have got to have one of those, and which is something that I know personally I've wanted to do for a long time. And so it's going to be here in Austin.
It's not going to be in Cincinnati?
Nope, not going to be in Cincinnati. Going to be right here in Austin. What? And I think it's going to be, we're shooting for maybe in the October time frame. We haven't nailed down the exact dates and times, but Austin is a great place to be. Perk is, headquartered here, so you guys can expect that. More details on that to come out soon. We're going to initially we'll put up a website talking about the event. Get people to kind of raise their hand and say they want to go. Try to get an idea of how many attendees we might have, that sort of thing. We'll be lining up speakers, sessions, that sort of stuff. There's some logistics to work out. Laura says free flights. I don't know about that. But I do know that the Austin airport is a very laid-back airport. When I went, I flew out recently to Vegas, and when I went through the airport, I hadn't been there. The security screening people actually smiled at me, which I thought was funny because I've never had one of those TSA guys smile at me. He was just kind of real laid back. I thought, well, how appropriate for Austin. And so then also what we're going to do is we're going to work on revamping our meetup groups. We've got a bunch of those out there that have kind of gone quiet. We're going to work with those guys to get some events scheduled. Going going to revamp the Corona Ambassador Program and get that going again. So there's a lot of great stuff happening. You guys got any thoughts, any questions? What's Laura saying? Please, New York City. What do you want to do in New York City? Laura, you're not already an ambassador? I thought you were an ambassador already.
I'm not an ambassador. I have a T-shirt. The ambassador program shut down before I could be one.
Carl,
An ambassador but me. It's very sad.
Grant her ambassadorship now.
Right now. Let me just hold on. Here's the mouse. I grant you, I knight you, an ambassador. Wow.
All right, I'm gonna get a T-shirt made up.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the first order of business. I gotta make Laura an ambassador. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
Sure.
That's very surprising.
Laura would be a much better NYC ambassador than me. I was made an ambassador shortly after I had kids, and I'm like, I'll write some blog posts. I don't know about hosting meetups right now.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. What's that? You'd be happy to host some meetups?
Oh yeah, just everybody come over to my place. It'll be great.
Hey, that's one of my goals. That's on my bucket list for the year. I want to go to Portland. You know, Ed, I'm looking at you. I want to go to New York.
Beer. That's what that is.
What's that? Is that a threat?
Oh, beer.
Oh, beer.
Good beer.
That's a big wrong.
I got a couch.
I'm out in Queens, but
Yep, New York. It's on my list for sure. So, it's on, man. I'm coming that way this year somehow, some way.
I'm sorry, I've become distracted. Somebody brought up the 1K contest, and I have since dug into my old 1K code.
Uh-oh.
And I realized it was Graphics 1.0 compatible, so now I'm fixing it to be Graphics 2.0 compatible. The problem is reading it, because the trick to getting anything to work on that contest was shortening everything into like one-letter functions. And so I'm like, I don't know what the heck this code is doing, but I can kind of see where it's not right. So.
What is the 1K? Is it bytes?
Yeah, it has to be. It has the code. The source code has to fit in a 1K of basically a text file.
Gotcha.
Not including config Lua, just the main Lua file.
So is that what you were doing? You were seriously writing one-letter functions?
Yeah. So let me show you an example of what this looks like.
It's hilarious.
I think I can bring this up. Levantanse. You see my screen here?
Hold on.
So this is one of my programs.
Yep.
And as you can see, everything is A, B, C, D, where you replace everything with a one letter for a function call. And down below, this is actually the code that does the work. So here's the whole function. Does all the work.
That's hilarious.
And produces. Oh, that's twice. Produces this. Let me reload it. It's a spirograph. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There are programs that will do that for you. Lua Source Diet, I think it's called.
No, this does not count. Yes, I know about Lua Source Diet. You must do it yourself. This is part of the challenge, is just figuring it out. I know. Look at you. He mutes his microphone. He's like, that's it. Fine. I won't give you my advice. So I just can't understand how I didn't win.
I don't know. I think it's pretty cool.
Sword fighting thing here. Here it is. Sword fighting.
Who won instead?
You can tighten that code up even more.
I know I could. If I took the spaces out.
Like the
sword fighting in 1K.
local H, local I, local J's.
Unity has nothing on me.
You could assign rotation the string to a variable and.
Okay, that's it. I'm show you guys my code. It's beautiful, and you say, oh, you could make that tighter, Ed. That's it. You're all fired. You are all fired. Honestly, how can I make it tighter?
Well, the local H, local I, local J, you could do one line local H, comma I, comma J, and then remove the three locals.
I don't even have to do local. What am I doing? I could just make these all globals.
Yeah, no locals, man.
Yep.
Your app is
But you
1K.
can still maintain your locals in line 19, 20, 21. Spaces between H's and equal signs and W's.
Well, the
There's a ton of
spaces don't
spaces
count.
in there.
The spaces don't count. So before I sent this out, I got rid of all the blank lines.
Don't they count towards your 1K limit?
Yeah, no, they don't count. It didn't. I don't think the spaces took up any. Okay, yeah, the spaces probably. You're right. Yeah. Wanting to be able to read my code has stabbed me in the back. I made it below the 1K limit. That's all that matters. It was like 988 bytes or something like
Got
that.
below 1K, then.
Yeah, good job.
Yay! Everybody's like, okay, Ed, shut up. Hey, now that I got the 4.
Charles, shake your mouse at him. That made Laura really happy. That's anoint him.
Yeah. I just wanted to say,
It's only if I get another 2.
Mike is here, the other Mike, and he's very quiet. He never toots his own horn, so I'm going to toot Mike's horn for him. One, Mike is my silent partner. He and I partnered up on this game. We talked about it on Corona Geek, but Picture Perfect Memory. So if you haven't played it, I'll put a link in the thing here, and you can go look at our beautiful website.
Which uses Coronium.
You can play it. The game uses Coronium. That's right. So thank you to Chris. And before I jump off of that, yes, definitely go play it. It's out on the App Store and Google Play. But on top of that, I just want to say, and I stopped the thing when it was loading, but Mike is one of these guys. He's very quiet, and yet he's got like 5 bazillion apps on all these different app stores. It's crazy. So tooting Mike's horn for him. He's probably
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome. I just wanted to point out, if we do have a monthly thing, look out. Mike's going to be there. He'll definitely be able to. I don't know if he'll enter, but he'll have the chops to do it.
Yeah. If it fits what I'm doing, I'll enter.
If there's money, I'm entering.
Yeah.
Laura says Bouncy Buddha was for Ship Jam.
Yep. That one I did for Ship Jam.
Yeah.
Oh, we should definitely have one with a free airfare to CoronaCon.
I think I'd enter that too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, how to get people in free airfare.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's a lot more expensive than a $50 gift card, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sometimes you gotta have a big prize.
Big grand.
You know, and it's not that I don't know. It depends on where you fly out of, but it's not that expensive to fly. So here it is. You win free airfare.
And you live in Texas.
But you gotta leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something.
There you go. You got to take 10 different stops, and you got to do the thing, and then jump in the back of a C-130, and you'll get there. We got you a free ride on something from the Air Force, and they're going to drop you out in a box, but you'll get there.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah. Like 320-hour layovers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the time you get here, you'll be half dead. But it's free.
Well, you I don't know, Charles, you were in the military. Did you ever do any of those like low-cost flight solutions? I know the Air Force offered them to us, but it usually was literally sitting, if you guys have ever watched NCIS, they do this a lot where they're sitting in like the back of a C-130 or something. That's what it was like. It wasn't anything like first class or even cattle class. It was much, much worse.
No, I have ridden in a cattle car, but I have not ridden with actual cattle.
That doesn't sound any more pleasant.
Yeah, right. All right, guys. Well, I don't want to make the show too long tonight. I just thought it would be great for us to get together and talk about some of the things that are happening in the Corona community, and just to kind of, I don't know, share all the stuff that's happening. It just seems like it just seems like everything has exploded.
I have to say, much as I loved the regularity of Weekly After Darks, the fact that we've got this many people on the panel really speaks to maybe having some distance between them.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk about that before we leave. Let's make that our last topic. What do you guys think? what should we do? You want to do these once a month? You want to do these once every other week? You want to do them once a quarter? What do you think is appropriate? Or not at all? That's an option too.
I like these a lot more than the weekday ones because in the weekday ones I'm trying to work.
Right.
And, it's 9 o'clock for me or 10 o'clock now, so it's a lot easier for me to attend these than the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get rid of them. I vote not to get rid of them.
Okay. There's a vote to not get rid of them, and Ed says once a month.
2 votes.
2 votes. 2 votes
Yeah.
to not get rid of them. Okay.
Yeah, I would say every couple weeks or every month.
Okay. So I'll say 3 for once a month. Jason says once a month. Or bi-weekly. Okay. Okay. So we're definitely. Rob, what do you think? Any votes?
Well, I like having this bigger panel.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, for sure.
So, let's try bi-weekly and see what happens.
I like it.
You're killing me over there.
Let's go with bi-weekly and see what happens.
Bi-weekly.
For a minute, I thought you were going to be a smart aleck and say, let's do it every 5 weeks. I'm like, what? five
Yeah. Yeah.
Rob's like, that's it, Ed. I'm going to be deleting all your entries on the forums. Too much of a
That's it.
smart aleck.
So Steven says, I think every 2 weeks works. Every third week says every third Wednesday says Vlad. Okay.
Okay, now Chris is being a smart aleck. The thing is, if you do it every 2 weeks, the every once a month people will be happy too. We just show up every other one.
All right. There you go. All right. Well, I'll work that out. I think that's a decent recommendation from you guys. I like the idea of having the game development series that we have going on with Corona. I also like interviews. I think those have value. Doing shorter, 20-minute interviews with developers. People really did seem to like those when we were doing those, and we haven't done those in a long time. And then I like these type of sessions where we can all get on and just talk.
The interview you had with Roger was really great too. Or with Raj, it was good to kind of see you sit down, and get the scoop. That wasn't just like the official published news or whatever.
Yeah, I want to push him to do more of those. I mean, I didn't have to push him to do that first one. He wanted to do the first one, but he's busy, and so I want to encourage him to do as many of those as I can get him. I can rope him into, right? Like get him to sit down, sit still for. His mind is fairly active all the time, and so I wouldn't say he has ADD, but his brain is always working, so he's always having meetings. He's always talking with somebody. He's always like in the middle of the night. He's answering emails, and I don't know when he sleeps, but. So anyway, I would love to encourage more of that because I think we need more of that for sure.
It's just good to hear it from the top.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. So we'll try to do as much as we can. All right. Was anybody got anything else before we go? Any closers?
Thank you for making me an ambassador.
Oh yeah. No problem. I will make sure. What size T-shirt should we send you?
Oh gosh.
Huh?
You're not asking a woman to give you her size on a public forum.
If you could give me your date of birth, yeah, that would be good too.
Oh, you've just undone everything right there.
I know.
DM the information.
Yeah. Email me a size.
Yes. Quietly send you the numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
You might as well just ask her what her age is at this point. How old are you? And breaking all the cardinal rules there.
Sorry.
You got to get her to the airport and get some etiquette lessons from the TSA.
Yeah, right. Slap me around. Good. All right. Well, you guys have a great night and have a great week, and thanks for being here, and I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Cheers.
Bye.
Everybody's like, I'll just wait till everybody else hangs up.